everyone. My name is Amina Gerrbi. I am a YouTube Partner Operations Manager and one of the Arab Googlers Global Co-Leads. This month, we are celebrating Arab Heritage Month, so make sure to check out go/Arab Googlers for more information on what else is happening as we wrap the month out. We are so thrilled today to continue the celebrations with today's guest, Nadine Bijou. Nadine is a North African fashion designer and entrepreneur based in Seattle. She runs several businesses, fashion ventures, including IDINA Bride, a luxury bridal shop and Seattle's most sought after shopping destination. Nadia is the label, a fully sustainable prom and evening brand, which can be found in over 20 locations in the US and Canada. And her latest project, Soraya, a modest luxury evening label, which has already received favorable recognition in the evening luxury space. Please join me in welcoming Nadine. Nadine,
Hi,
hello. How are you
Amina.
doing? How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I know you're also fasting. How's that been going for you?
It's been going good. Alhamdulillah. We have sadly a week left, but it feels like now it's kind of like part of the routine. We've gotten used to it, but it's going well. How about you?
No, it's been good. I'm just so excited to have you here because I've been thinking about this. We're two Libyans doing a talk at Google. I don't know if this has ever happened at
Yeah,
Google, like two Libyans doing a talk, and just crazy. Like we met as teenagers in Benghazi, and like here we
right.
are.
I
So,
know. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
did you
yeah.
ever
No,
imagine us doing this like together?
no. I mean, that was like what, like 14 years ago, 12 years ago. That makes us sound really old, but it was a while ago.
I know.
And but yeah, are there even a lot of Libyans in Google? I mean, do we actually have a population that exists?
We actually have a little email group now. There's like maybe five of us.
Oh, that's
So
cute.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
no,
working on
yeah.
it.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you bringing me on to do this. I'm excited to celebrate Arab Heritage Month, with the Googlers.
Yeah, no, we're so excited to have you. And before we jump into like the deep, yet hard-hitting questions I have for you, it is Arab Heritage Month, like you said. So I want to start off with more like lightning round of a warm-up question, especially because it's Ramadan. Like we need to like make sure our blood is flowing through our brain and like we can
Right.
like think.
Yeah. Wake
So to
up.
start off, yeah, I have like a couple lightning round questions for you, just back to back. These you can answer in like quick 1 second, and then later we'll have like the more long answers for the deeper
Okay.
questions. But so just don't even think, just say. Are you ready?
Okay,
You
let's do
ready?
it.
Okay. Ethnicity,
North African,
place of birth.
Miami, Florida.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Favorite Arab
Yeah.
food.
Okay, favorite Arab food. I really want to say maklouba because it's trending on TikTok, and I feel like most of you would know what that is. But actually, it's I don't know if you know this, but it's macarona mboha. Do you guys make that?
Yes.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Amazing.
So it's basically like this. How do you explain it? Like Arabic pasta with this really good sauce with garbanzo beans in it and onions. So yeah,
It's legendary, so love
yeah.
that. Favorite Arab musical artist.
Favorite Arab musical artist? I want to say Kulthum because that makes you
Mhm.
sound like more regal. But let's be real, it's totally Ahmed Diab.
The King of Egypt, but also Uncle Sam, you sound very like classy, sophisticated, for saying that. So
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I love Ahmed Diab. Yeah.
it's kind of he's still making music. It's been a lot of
He's
years.
still kicking it. Oh my God. He's been like, when did he even start? Yeah, he's still well alive and kicking it.
Yeah.
So yeah, go Ahmed Diab.
Okay, last lightning round. Favorite Arab country to visit.
Oh, it's probably not conventional or popular, but really it's Saudi Arabia. I used to live there, so and I haven't been in a while, so I have this big desire to go back. So yeah, I would say Saudi Arabia.
Wow, very interesting. Thank you so much. That's the end of the lightning round. So thank you for entertaining that. I feel like we already learned so much about you, and I feel like a little bit warmed up. So thank you for that. But now
Yeah.
I want to hear more. Yeah, could you tell us more about how you became an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so it's funny because my intention never really was to become an entrepreneur. If you suffer from ADD, you can probably relate to this, but I have this debilitating ability of always jumping from one thing to the next and then never really finishing, like the last thing that I just jumped away from. So basically, like this extreme lack of focus. And I think that's a weakness that I suffer from, and why I initially never sought out an entrepreneurial path, or didn't think it was really, possible for me, to go to be an entrepreneur. But really, my inspiration, how I got started, was essentially, came from my mother. I think from a young age, I observed her working, many various jobs and had many various careers, and she worked for other people, up until she was 40. And that's when she decided that, she was going to start her own business, and, really unconventional time. And so, or age too, really. And so that business, flourished into another. And it really changed, my outlook, and, on the fluidity of career, and how it's not symbiotic to age or an overall master plan, because she really did it in an unconventional way. And she's similar to me in that she also suffers from also jumping from one thing to the next. But I think the difference is that she really knew how to key in on that weakness, so and so, and make it to her, make it to her advantage, or make it her strength, which is so important as an entrepreneur, to be able to like jump from one thing to the next, really. But you have to have some kind of focus with it. And I, she really set the groundwork and the blueprint for me for that. And there were so many lessons in that for me. And essentially, the gravitational pull that brought me into being an entrepreneur, or striving to be an entrepreneur on my own terms, really. So that's kind of some background of how I got into it.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. So a lot of inspiration from your mother, but also harnessing what you said, like it was a weakness and turning it into a strength. So that's incredible. I'd love to hear
Yeah.
more detail on like how you went about starting your first business. I think like IDINA was first, right? Was that the first one? Would love to start there and kind of
No,
hear more.
actually, Adina was the second. So we started with, so my first business was actually Nadia's Evening, which my mother and I started in 2015. And Nadia's has currently evolved into like our personal brand, where we design, manufacture, and wholesale evening gowns or special occasion attire. But at the time, we didn't really have all those goals in mind. So when we started, we had one particular goal in mind, and that was just to, um, you know, sell to our customer the right product, and to sell as much as we can, basically to make money. And I know that sounds shallow, but really, I think something I read recently really resonated with me. And it was from Simon Sinek. And it was like, passion, like profit, is at the exit point, not at the entry point. So it's a result that you come to. So, starting our first business and really having this goal and drive to want to sell and make money eventually led to, the other businesses that we came to build together, but also came to, give me the passion and the love that I really, have now for everything that I do. So,
Wow,
yeah.
amazing. I'd love to hear though, like, how did you know what to do? I think you told me you were kind of self-taught by Google, so I'm glad that we could
Yeah.
help in Google. But like, tell us more, like, how is your process, and also how do you decide, like, you know what, I'm gonna do this versus like go get a job? I know you had the inspiration, but how did you decide to take the step?
Yeah. So how did I decide to like go from one thing to the next?
Yeah, just starting off, like from when you decided to start your first, what steps did you take to figure out what to do? And like also why did you even decide to take that step?
Yeah. So, honestly, when we started Nadia's, we were retailing other designers on the market. So just to give you a particular example, or a specific example. So when we started, we had no plans of designing or even having our own label on the table yet. It goes back to our original plan, which was to sell as much as we can and make as much money as we can, which, for us, in order to do that, we found that we had to really know who our customer was. So over the years, we got better at knowing who our customer was. So that helped us knowing into what products we needed to buy. And after spending a few years with our customer, we realized that there was a huge opportunity, in the fashion, in the evening, we'll say evening space industry, of what was missing. And So after a few years of, starting to gain some knowledge of what was missing, it was kind of like a no-brainer. Like if we can't find the right product to buy for them, again, the goal is to find as much as we can and sell as much as we can, then we just have to make it. And
Mhm.
that's essentially how I started getting into manufacturing or designing. And for me, there was no foundation, there was no structure. So it was all, kind of, oh, this is, curious to me, or, we need to do this to make this. So it was a lot of hopping on Google and figuring out, like, how could I do this? Or Reddit was a huge, I think, resource for me too. And so I think it was just this overall curiosity that led me to basically kind of figure it out, along the way. So yeah.
Okay, so basically following that curiosity, and that was what created Nadia's evening. And then so how did that lead to Adina then? And can you tell us more about Adina as well?
Yeah. Yeah, so funny enough, it's kind of similar. So the shop that we had in 2015, that we just said goodbye to yesterday. Actually, yesterday was our last day there. So it's been about 7 years. But that store before us for 70 years was actually a bridal shop. And it was a bridal destination shop. So we started as an evening dress shop. But knowing that this was a bridal shop, a lot of people in Seattle, knew it as that. We just kind of kept getting this,
Mm.
traffic of people coming in expecting to see bridal. So they really, it was unintentional exposure, really. They thought we were a bridal shop, so they'd make the trip down. And we just kept getting all these clients who were just looking for bridal. And like my mother and I really share this quality where we can't let a customer leave without helping them in some way. So whether selling something to them or giving them advice, or helping them in some way. And so, when a customer would come in looking for a product that we didn't have, we wanted to understand, how could we offer that with what we had, or what did we need to do. So that started the initial, I think, for me, curiosity of, okay, well, a lot of clients are looking for these type of bridal gowns. And I think that was around, so 2015, 2016, and then 2017, I felt like I gained enough knowledge, and I had converted some of those customers. So we did have an evening wear selection in white that we'd offer. So I slowly started to experiment and bring in pieces to see how the market would react and how those clients would react. And then I think that gave me the push to, branch out and start IDINA Bride in 2017. So
Wow. What a
yeah.
crazy story. I mean, it was like curiosity, then led to just caring about the customers, trying to help them, and literally led to this business. Like, incredible. And so
Yeah,
that leads me to,
totally.
yeah. So I feel like earlier you talked about why you became an entrepreneur and kind of your path to that situation. Curious though, why did you decide fashion? Like, I guess kind of, was it because your mom kind of was part of that industry, or when did you kind of know you had an interest?
Yeah. So, okay, the funny thing is that I actually went to school to be a dentist. So my undergrad is actually in microbiology and global health. So it's so crazy to me that now I'm in fashion. However, from a young age, I was always obsessed with fashion, and I always loved, especially high fashion. Like I really loved high fashion. And I had the magazines, I would do the little sketches. They were horrible, but I really, was into fashion. And I grew up looking at my mom, or looking up to my mom, who is a huge fashion, in our family, a fashion icon, like all my aunts, like uncles, like, my brother and sisters, like we all really look up to her as that, she's known in the family as the fashion icon. She loves to dress up. She loves to look good. And so it's always kind of been, a passion of mine in a way. So it's crazy now that I actually get to work, um, in fashion, because it feels like almost like a muscle that just works without command, for me, because I enjoy it so much. So yeah.
Super interesting. Just listening to you, I know that something that entrepreneurs face often is a lot of risk. So I'm curious to know what your perspective on risk taking is.
Yeah, so I think I think not taking a risk is probably the biggest risk of all. My brother actually taught me the value of having skin in the game. He'd always say, "You're not making moves if you don't put something on the line." And you really have to give 110% if you want to see an output of 200, and be willing to also lose. And I think if you can strengthen your conviction and your patience through the process, then failure just becomes like an asset for you. Because really, patience um, is something like pain. So the threshold is shifted and increased as you endure more. And that works hand in hand with every risk that you take, and something that I've personally experienced as I've been working and kind of going about my life and my career. So, risk taking is really important.
Well, you said skin in the game, gotta have skin in the game. And
Gotta
then
have skin in
failure,
the game.
yeah, you said failure becomes your asset. This is very inspirational right now. You're dropping some gems, so loving this. So I'd love to go to, I know you talked about your mom being one of your big inspirations. Love to hear if you have any other inspirations, whether they're entrepreneurs or designers, like anyone in the industry.
You know, I did starting out. I had a few people that I still look up to, but I think overwhelmingly my biggest inspiration and what I try to model my life after is probably the prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And I know that's not the conventional answer, but there's so much, in my religion as a Muslim, there's so many lessons and you know in following the prophet and how he did things. And a way that a lot of people can relate is in a lot of churches they have like that sign that says, what would Jesus do? And thinking like, so for me, my inspiration has always been the prophet, peace be upon him, and what would he do in this kind of situation. So that's been an inspiration for me and how I kind of deal with my life and business and relationships and more personal things. And so, yeah.
Amazing. Next question for you. So, totally unrelated to that, but I know you prefer to be more private on social media. So, I'm curious to know, do you feel you could have a successful brand and all of that, and during, this time period where everything is so big on social media, do you think you can separate your own personal life versus like having a brand?
Yeah. I think there is a lot of value of being the face of your brand, and I do see the benefit of it. But for me personally, I always wanted my brand to be able to stand on its own. And that's difficult, especially in the space that we are in today, where it's really popular to be talking consistently about what you're doing. Um, you know, but I think that, most of it has to do with the fact that for me personally, I have this overarching plan that I see for my various businesses where I don't want to personally plug in myself in all these different things. Um, and really, I think it's difficult to compete against a silent mover. Working in silence for me has kept me humble and really allowed me to focus or to stay focused. But with that, you have to be willing to be underestimated. But if you can find value in that sort of environment, that makes you stronger, which is really against the status quo. Because right now it's really about, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm making, and this is who I am. And there is some value to that, but for me, I feel like there's a value in being underestimated and working in silence, because they really never see you coming. So you're able to for me, I'm able to focus
Hmm.
better when I don't have um, you know, the spotlight or people looking and seeing what is she up to? What is she
Mhm.
doing? Because you're putting the spotlight on yourself when you're advocating too heavily on what
Mhm.
you're up to. So Yeah.
I like that. Don't have them see you're coming. Like, I love that so much.
Yeah, don't let
Amazing.
them see you coming.
Yeah. Awesome. So my colleague Marwa actually asked this next question during one of our other talks, and I really loved it. So I wanted to ask you as well, which of your ancestors do you carry with you the most and why?
This is tough because if I'm being honest, a lot of the stories growing up in my house was about like my mom and my dad's experiences, and they didn't really go much further than that. So my mom's family was actually exiled from Libya, like many other Libyan families, in the 70s. So I would say probably my grandma, who's still alive, my mom's mom. Um, I mean, she's just a vibe. She hustles so hard. She if we're still trying to get her a Netflix special. I think like she deserves a Netflix special if I were to, tell you even a quarter of her story. She's like a huge inspiration to me and really someone I carry deeply in my heart. And my mom does too. That's yeah, my grandma Salma. Her name is Salma. So
We need this
yeah.
Netflix special to happen, please. Like, who do we need to
Yeah, we
call?
need this Netflix. Yeah, I've already started, me and my cousins have already started, like, recording her stories and stuff, and, like, we have videos, and yeah, so one day we'll piece it all together if Netflix doesn't come through.
Yeah. No, amazing. I feel like that's so important to do. Otherwise, it just gets lost sometimes, and it's so sad. We don't have any
Yeah.
history. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
amazing. Yeah, speaking, I guess this is a good segue to go into more of our Arab Heritage Month questions too. Speaking of like your
Okay.
grandmother, and so I guess because you mentioned like obviously you're like a woman, Arab, you're Libyan, you're also Muslim. So those are a few identities you hold. So curious to go and think about how do you think being a woman and a business owner has impacted your path, if at all?
Ooh, it's definitely impacted it a lot, and I think a lot of women hate using the woman card, but it's so prevalent in our society and in the business world. And I'm so passionate about this, particularly right now, because I've been dealing with a recent situation, with another business that's really tested my patience, you know? And, you know, being a woman in business all over the world, not just in the US, is difficult, especially in the Middle East, where, I've done some business before. Um, and, I've had to bring, you know, so we have like manufacturing that we do overseas. And a lot of the manufacturing part of the business, and it's funny, contrary to popular belief, actually, a lot of the fashion industry is run by men. So the designers and stuff like that, a lot of them are female. So it's easier to kind of work, with like-minded individuals, and women, but a lot of like the manufacturing part of the business and textiles and all that is ran by men, and a lot of that work that I do is overseas. And being a woman and being younger, I think too, they don't take you as seriously, and you really have to overcompensate to make up for that. So yeah, it's affected. I don't linger on it too much, and I don't, yeah, maybe, life would be easier if I wasn't, a female in business, but that's not the card that I was dealt, and this is what it is, and it's kind of like what we just gotta do, for us, like make it easier for other women to go
Mhm.
on this path. It's not easy, but just paving the way for other women to also be able to work in this environment,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. I mean, given the challenges that you mentioned, what advice do you have for other women who aspire to start their own business?
Whew. There's a lot, but I think okay, so I think importantly, surround yourself with high caliber people who want to win. Focus on your priorities because priorities are the foundation to efficiency, especially in a world where there's like so much stacked against you. um, have a defined purpose. That helps you stay in check when the cards are set, when things are, kind of going crazy. And um, I think seeking external validation comes at a cost, so you want to be careful with that. Focusing intensely, I think I struggled with this, but focusing intensely on other people is rarely a winning strategy for yourself. So, focus on yourself and focus on your priorities, because whatever work you do, it will change a person, it will change you in a very specific way. So it's important to know that, I think. But yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's super helpful advice, honestly, for all women. What's something you wish people did know about Libyans?
Oh, okay. Okay, so I think that we're really hospitable. Like, we're
Hmm.
so like, we drag, like, a person from the street, and, like, we it doesn't matter who he is or where he comes from, like, we're having dinner, he has to have dinner with us right now. Like, I feel like that's such a Libyan thing, like, we're so hospitable. And have you seen the Anthony Bourdain episode of when he
Hmm.
goes to Libya? So he highlights that, and I love that, and I love Anthony Bourdain, and I especially love that episode because he really highlights, I think, how Libyans are so hospitable and welcoming. And if there's anything you should know about Libyans, is that we definitely, I think, take gold when it comes to that. So
Oh, I love that
yeah.
so much. And honestly, that's what I would wish too, that people knew that more and just had the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, just the other day, people were making fun of me because there weren't enough seats for everyone, and I like stood up, and I would not sit down. I was like, everyone else has to sit down, like it's just like a Libyan thing. Like you have to make sure
No,
everyone else
yeah,
is
and I
forward.
think people, like, look at that, like, sometimes, not everyone, but I feel like sometimes it's like we have this desire, like, we just have to help, like, we just have to welcome, that people are like, "What is wrong with you? Like, calm down," but, like, you're doing too much, but I feel like I was raised like that, I'm sure you were too, and so it's just, like, kind of part of who we are, and I love it, but I could see how people would be like, "Ugh, that's little too much,
Yeah,
but yeah.
no, totally. Yeah, I'm curious to know because I love talking about like our culture and everything. Why do you think it's important to stay connected to your roots and to pass on any traditions?
Yeah, so staying connected to your roots is what sets you apart, and knowing where you come from is going to help you know where to go. I think that's so important. And it doesn't mean where you come from is where you need to go, but where you come from can help you understand yourself a little more,
Mm,
right? Because we are a product of our family, right? Who's a product of their family, and so on and so forth. So knowing your roots is just so important for everyone, so you know yourself, and staying connected to that is for me has been so valuable and has helped me a lot.
so I'm curious to know for you now, what does success look like for you? Like, do you kind of feel content with where you're at in the moment, or is there a lot you want to achieve? How do you kind of know when to slow down, if ever?
Yeah, so I think before I said that, my goal or my passion, my goal was to make as when we first started was to make as much profit as we could. But I think real success is not simply money, it really encompasses everything in your life. A successful person has time, health, has relationships, and the money to fund and enjoy those things the way that they want to. So we narrow the definition to money because it's far easier to measure or get to.
Mm,
Um, but it's achieving real success is hard. And if you put yourself last, the weight of the other things you stack above you will eventually crush you. So it's important to have that balance, and that's definitely something that I've struggled with. Because finding that balance isn't easy. It's natural to be limbo from one extreme to the other, but that's how we find balance. So I think for me, I've tried the 80-hour work week, and I've tried the complete opposite end of that spectrum when it's gotten too much, and it's just, I've been burnt out by it and haven't been able to do anything. And I think having for me, having a cycle of that for some time really helped me find the balance, and a threshold of when it's too much and when it's too little.
I have 3 more questions for you, and then we can open up to the audience questions. So, first one, I actually asked my team this the other day, and it sparked very interesting conversation. So, I'm curious if you happen to know, top of mind, what has surprised you the most about your own life so far?
So far, oh, I think what surprised me the most about my own life, I honestly, it's just crazy. I think what surprised me the most is that I'm working in the fashion industry. Like that in itself, for the first 25 years of my life, my goal was to be a dentist and to be in the medical field. So I think it surprised me how I was able to kind of give that up kind of like in a snap and jump onto this, and now this is like everything for me. So I think it surprised me how I was able to adjust and adapt. um yeah, I think
Yeah,
the potential I didn't really see in myself, I ended up seeing through this.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you had quite the pivot for sure, so that's a
Yeah.
really good one. Yeah, awesome. Okay, last 2 questions. First one, can you share 1 or 2 things you're excited about and 1 or 2 things that concern you?
I think this is the same thing for me. This so IDINA Bride is actually moving to a new location this week. We open up this Friday. If you're from Seattle, we're going to be at University Village, which is a really great location in Seattle. Um, and that excites me because it's, honestly a dream of mine to be in that location, but really frightens me too because it feels like so much is on the line, and I've worked so hard for it, but um, it scares me too. So, but I think that's natural. But yeah, it excites me and scares me. So I think that's, yeah, our new location. So
Awesome.
come visit if
Yeah,
you're in Seattle and say hi.
yeah, I actually am coming, I think, next weekend, so maybe I'll see you and go to your store.
Oh,
So,
really? Oh, nice.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Amazing. But yeah, thank you again so much for joining us today. This was so inspirational, and I think now we can open up. If anyone has questions, feel free to pop them into the chat, and we'll start to pull those up. Maybe we could take the first one now. Okay, question from Anne. How do you get your design inspiration? Is it based off of fashion icons you admire or through your travels?
Oh, it's definitely both. Fashion icons are huge. Actually, when we first started designing for Nadia's, we realized a lot of our clients were really interested. Our clients wanted to, we're buying dresses so that they could look good and post those photos on their social media. So there was a certain aesthetic that they were looking for, and a lot of the inspiration was, that they look to is like Rihanna or Bella Hadid. And so there's a lot of inspiration in how they outfit themselves. And definitely from our travels too. I mean, luckily we get to go to Turkey for our manufacturing. And I love the fashion there. And there's a lot of inspiration that comes from that whole region of the world too. So yeah.
Well, we can go to the second question. What's your guiding philosophy with fashion and how did it change over time?
Oh, I think it's changed. I think my philosophy with fashion is directed mostly to the consumer. Like I really listen to with Nadia's in particular, like I'm really observing what my clients' wants and needs are and designing for that. And so that's changed, just even just year over year, that changes because a lot of girls, a lot of people are just following different trends, different styles. And so it's kind of as much as I love fashion and I find a lot of inspiration within the industry, my fashion philosophy and my business is to follow what my customers are after and offering that for them. So yeah.
Love that. I think we have another question that just came in. Let's see. What is the hardest part of starting your own clothing brand?
Ooh, there's a lot. I think the biggest one is finding the right manufacturing and factory to work with you. That's just I didn't. I still struggle with this today, but and this is why I think relationships um, are so important, or cultivating relationships are so important. But I think the hardest part for me was the manufacturing and production side. The designing process and all that, I think relatively, I thought would be the hardest part, but became relatively easier for me over time. It was really working with factories, explaining your vision, um, negotiating terms, working in a foreign country. When they do things differently, the business structure, the way that terms work, and all that. So I think that was definitely the hardest part um, for me. Yeah.
Go to the next question. And did it take a lot of capital to start the company? Yeah.
So when we started Nadia as the retail shop in 2015, we actually started with very little fund, like very little capital. My parents had invested only $10,000 into it, which is not a lot. Um, and about 60 to 70% of that went to just merchandise. The rest was, we were really scrappy, again, immigrant. So like we had to just kind of figure out what we could do with what we had. And that I think now, many years into this, I think that was such a blessing to start small, because minimalism really forces creativity. So you just need to buy a few items. And for me, the philosophy for my mother and I was, we need to buy a few items and we need to sell these items so we get more money and we can buy more items. And it was just this simple kind of transaction in our mind. So I don't think you need a lot of money to start. I think you just need a drive, which a lot of people have if they're passionate enough about what they want to do. So
Amazing.
yeah.
I think we have one more question that came in. Do you have any go-to outfits you find yourself going back to?
Yes. um, I'm so happy that like baggy slack pants are in, because like through COVID, it was, essentially sweats all the time because we're home all the time. So my go-to is definitely like, baggy, black or neutral colored slack pant with just a casual neutral colored top and some cool sneakers, and various blazers. That's kind of like my uniform, really.
Love it.
Yeah.
Next, I think we have another question that came in. You mentioned expanding to new stores and starting new businesses. How do you know when to expand?
Oh, honestly, well, okay. So for me, it was really the correct answer is, once one thing that you're working on is on autopilot. So for Nadia's, once I started, I really knew my customer. I mean, down to, I know who they're following on Instagram. I think that was huge. We really knew our customer. We really knew what to buy for them. We really knew how to market and sell to them. I think once that starts to run on autopilot and you can start to bring in people to kind of like do that process for you, what you've learned, then I think that's when we became more comfortable to jump to the next thing. And the next thing for us at the time was manufacturing. So because we became so comfortable and we were able to kind of run that part of the business on autopilot, we were able to move on to the next. So it's super important to be able to, and this is something I struggle with. It's like I want to do so many things at once, but like if you're gonna spread yourself thin and focus on too many things at once, then not one thing is really going to run successfully. So do one thing, allow it to run successfully, know it inside out, and then move on to the next thing. So
Amazing
yeah.
advice. Let's go to the next question. What was your experience building your team once the company got bigger? Was it difficult to delegate, especially on tasks that you enjoyed doing when your company was smaller?
Yes. Oh yes. What was your experience building your team once the company got bigger? So I worked retail while I was in college and in school for many years. So I had like very little experience in hiring, but so that helped a little bit. When we started our own business, but hiring it continues to be something that we really, for me, that I struggle with because it's every member of our team that we hire is so, especially with a smaller business, is so important. So, in the beginning, I really wanted to hire people that in my mind I thought had it all together and they could teach me. But then later I realized that the most important candidate is the candidate that wants to be there, regardless of their experience or their credibility. And so when you get people like that, then you start to trust delegating the things that you enjoy. And I found it was more difficult for me early on in the business to delegate parts of my responsibilities when it wasn't the right person or the right fit. So that's why hiring is so important, because I think as we started to hire, more of the right people, and that was a lot of trial and error, it became easier for me to be able to delegate. But I still go back with, so one of the things that I enjoy the most is I love styling my prom clients. Like I love being in the fitting rooms with the girls and finding dresses for them and styling them. Like that continues to be one of the most enjoyable things for me. For me, it's really important to go back every once in a while and still do that and have that be a part of my work. So yeah.
Amazing. I think those were all the questions we had, and we're almost at time here. So, Nadine, thank you again so much for joining. This was so inspirational, so fun to talk to you. Happy Arab Heritage Month, and best of luck with everything you have going on. I know there's a bunch coming up soon. So, thank you again.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Amina. I hope everyone has a happy Ramadan for those, and a happy Eid for those who are observing. And thank you, Google, for having me on. I really appreciate it.